Oh,
It's really good to meet you, man.
yeah, good to meet you too. Steve or Twisted, what do I call you? Rico?
People call me all three of those things.
Where's that?
You know, I knocked myself completely off my game by watching Our Lips Unsealed.
Wait, what is?
It's a live show that you did in LA where you talked
Oh,
about
yes.
Cynthia Plaster Caster and I'm like, wait a second here. I'm gonna start with that because that was
Okay.
like a fantastic story, man. That whole story. What do you talk about that? Just tell people what I'm talking about. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
some of them will know.
yeah. Well, I mean, people know of this person, even if they're not a rocker. It seems. Famous groupie Cynthia Plastercaster. She was famous for making casts of rock stars. Dick, can I say Dick?
You can say
Yeah,
anything.
yeah. Dicks, right? So like I grew up, as you'll learn, I'm a rock fan first and foremost, right? So I of course I knew all the famous groupies and I'm friends with Miss Pamela now, which is amazing. But anyway, uh, this was so we're on tour. We're on the very first Muffs national tour, right? So our first album is not even it's coming out the following week, and we went on tour with the Goo Goo Dolls.
Right.
They were a rock band then. Always got to throw that in. So this is '93. This is like April '93. We just had three singles out before this, so we're playing the Metro. We started in the middle of the country, so this is like second day. We're in Chicago at the Metro, the famous Metro, um, and after the show, uh, people that don't know, the Metro has different. There's a bottom level with a place called the Smart Bar.
Yeah.
It's open till 4 a.m. or whatever. So often bands end up down there. Um, so I'm still in the dressing room, and then Kim comes running up, and me and Kim had been a couple for three and
Yeah.
a half years into forming the Muffs, and we weren't at this point. But Kim's like, "Hey, Ronnie, Cynthia Plastercaster's downstairs, and I've been talking up your dick." That's how Kim used to talk. And I'm just like, what? And anyway, I knew who Cynthia was. I go downstairs, and it's not very crowded, but there she is, and it's Cynthia next to her lawyer, Santiago Durango, who was from Big Black,
Right.
also a lawyer. Um, and they're both looking me up and down like it's like I'm a cartoon character and my body's turned into a steak, one of those things. And and Cynthia actually is quite shy, and she's like, "Look, I'd love to cast you." And here's the thing: Cynthia just casts people she's a fan of, like people.
Yeah.
I remember telling Johnny Rzeznik or however you say his name the next day, like,
Resnick.
yeah, and he's like, "Oh, she didn't ask me," chewing gum with his backwards hat, But she doesn't just do everybody. She's got to be a fan. So she knew of our early singles, which is amazing. That's almost the most amazing part. And yeah, so she asked me, and at that point she was in litigation, hence Santiago being her lawyer, to get her cast back. She had given them to Herb Cohen, Frank Zappa's manager, for safekeeping in the '70s. So he had Jimi Hendrix and all of them, and he wasn't giving them back at this point. So she had to take him to court, and she did get him back. But she was like, "Look, I'd love to cast you. I can't do it now because he's got my kit too. Her famous little case had plaster casters in Chicago, had all of her stuff in there. So cut to 3 months later, we're back headlining this time at the Lounge Act. Cynthia's there. She's like, "I don't know if you still want to do it, but now look, Steve, I don't make a habit out of whipping it out, but she's one of the most famous groupies of all time. I had to say yes, and yeah, and so yeah, it was actually quite a clinical procedure. It's not that sexual. Back in the day, it was the plaster casters of Chicago because there'd be an additional person kind of helping the subject out, if you will, a little bit. Why so she's got this method. Am I talking too long about this, Steve?
No, this is good.
Okay,
This is
okay.
good.
So she's got her rituals, right? So she takes out her kit. Um, this is like 3 in the morning. She puts on this Cub Scout shirt, which I guess used to belong to her dad. Read into that what you will. And then safety pin to it was this wild pattern that was kind of like an apron turned out to be Keith Moon's pant leg. So before she puts it on, she balls it up and sniffs it, and then offers it to me. And I'm like, yeah, of course, I'll sniff. I'll sniff Keith Moon's pant leg. It just smelled musty, Steve. It didn't smell like balls or anything. It smelled like old unwashed cloth. Anyway, and she takes out a notebook. So she assigns me my serial number. And this has got notes from all the past ones. So I got to read about, Jimmy. Jimmy had the biggest rig I've ever seen. That's a quote in there. I think her diaries will come out one day, I think. But anyway, my serial number is 00050, right? So I'm like, look, honey, if you plan on getting the 10,000s, you better get going. Sorry, I called her honey, but
well,
anyway,
it's an honor.
So anyway, she first oils me up, right? So you don't stick in there. So what's used is like alginate. I think that's how you say it. That the dentist used to make impressions of your teeth.
Yeah.
So she spreads out newspaper, gets on her knees, lubes me up so I don't stick in it, right? And then she's like, "You might want to start beating off now." And then she's like, "The guy from Zodiac Mind Warp used the picture of my mom." I'm like, "I'm good. I'm so, and then she's like, just mix like a scientist mixing this thing up, right? So finally, I mean, I'm doing the best I can, and then she's like, "Okay, it's time." So you go in, okay, and so the vessel is like, when you get a milkshake at Denny's, you get that extra, the remainder one, the metal cup. It's one of the. You'll never look at that again the same way, Steve. If you get a milkshake, it's one of those, and so I go in. And you got to stay in there for a good cast, if you will. You're supposed to stay in there a minute, and like at full. Now look, it's cool. Like it feels cool. It's not conducive to kind of keeping it up, if you will. So she's stuffing the balls in and stuff, so it gets a good base. Anyway, after a minute, I pull out. I pull out. She sends me to the shower like an athlete to go. I'm picking bits out of my cry. I'm thinking I'm not going to forget this anytime soon. And then I come out, and then that's when she pours the plaster in. So it's got to sit for 24 hours, right? So, obviously, so I got back to the hotel at, I don't know, 6:30 in the morning or something. So next night I call her to see how it came out, and also, she was smoking pot out of a can at her house. I couldn't believe that, Steve. Like, I'm like, come on, you got to get a bong or something, get a pipe, and she did. So I was very good influence on her in that respect. But so I call her the next night. I'm like, how'd it come out? And she's like, well, I think it's just darling. And I'm like, she's like, well, you softened in the mold, so it curls around. So mine has some personality, right? And it turned out to be one of her favorites. Like she did spoken word gigs, and she would bring me on the spoken word shows, along with John Langford of the Mekons, who has like just a straight up thing. So in the documentary, you can see I kind of make a joke out of people laughing. Cuts to her holding me up. People are indeed laughing. She's like, "What? You gotta have a long dick to pull this off." And then she shows John Langford's, and people are like cheering, waving flags with the dick on it and stuff. Like, it's a whole scene. But anyway, that said, so she had multiple copies of mine because she traveled with it. And by the way, I'd see it periodically on TV because I knew mine had such personality, like a VH1 thing on her, and you'd see like you'd see mine.
Wow.
You see the shadow of it. It made a billboard at Zappa Fest. She's like posing with it. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it made a billboard, Steve. But yeah, it's so now it's been in museums. Your dick makes it at a museum. It's currently in there's a penis museum. It's currently it's in Sweden or Norway or somewhere. Someone sent me a photo a year or two ago. It's in a penis museum. So there you go.
I just actually heard you tell the story this morning because I was like just flipping around on YouTube, and I found you talking at, I don't know, Key Largo or some club in LA. It was good though. It was really funny.
It was a spoken word gig. Yeah. If you want to hire me, people for spoken word gigs, I'm available.
Cool.
I can
All right.
entertain it. Yeah. Anyway,
Okay, another wacky thing I have to ask you about before we go to Houston.
please.
David Lee Roth. I mean, what's with you and David Lee Roth? Are you a fan? Because you
Yeah.
have his
Yeah.
name as an email.
I do. I do. And you're not going to believe this, Steve. I have an out of court settlement with David Lee Roth. You heard me. Let that sink in. so
Really?
so here's the deal. So I am a huge fan of David Lee Roth, right? I grew up on Van Halen. I just turned 60 a month ago, so that's my age, right? I was born at 65. So God, that was a big one for me too, Steve. I don't know if you've reached that pinnacle yet.
No comment.
Yeah, yeah, okay. I was all cool, and then the week before, I'm like, it looks like I'm gonna make it. It's like when you're on an airplane, it gets low when you're getting in, and I think I'm gonna make it on this flight. Like anyway, so yeah, big fan, and I worked, I've worked in record shops most of my working career, right? Besides the a good chunk of the '90s where I didn't have to work. We'll get to that, but yeah, so I'm working the store, and this is 12 years ago, and I'm proceeding my out of court settlement story here. I worked at the store called Penny Lane in Venice, and I had heard like, oh, Tina Marie comes in, and David Lee Roth occasionally. You might see them. And by the way, I pissed off Tina Marie 2 days before she died because I didn't know to give her a discount. Anyway, I'm there one Sunday. This guy comes in. He's wearing a hat, got a beard, sunglasses. The Stones box had come out recently. He's like, "You have that new Stones box?" I'm like, "Nah, we didn't. $250. We didn't order one in, you know." He's like, "Okay, where's the section?" Now this is a quiet Sunday. There's one other customer in. It's like 11:30 a.m. Like it's like this time on a Sunday. I show him the section. He shops for about 15 minutes. Then he comes up. He's got a Stones compilation, that Jump Back compilation with the platform boot on it, and a Stevie Wonder CD, and lays down his credit card, and then he lays down his ID. So I didn't ask for his ID. He just did it, right? And so I look at his ID, David Lee Roth. Now in my head, I freaked out. Like I didn't recognize him, right? Obviously, he didn't walk in like, "Hey, you got that Stone CD?" He wasn't like that at all. And he's shorter than I imagined. Now I'm 6'3", so
Okay, yeah, he's shorter than
everyone's
6'3".
a little, yeah. Most are a little, but so anyway, for a second I'm like, oh my God, what do I do? This is my So I just stop and I just go, "I'm sorry I didn't recognize you. I love you. Can I hug you?" And like, she's like, "Yeah, come on in," And so we hugged and talked. This is shortly after the first reunion tour they did, before they made the comeback album. And I went to the show, and it really was a great show. And I told him, I love that show. I high-fived the usher on my way out of the arena. I really did. Um, I was very happy. Anyway, he's a very cool guy. And I was like, "Can I get a photo?" Um, so I just did the thing where you hold it up. It came out kind of whatever. And he's like, "How'd it come out?" I'm like, it's fine. It's fine. He's like, "No, let's get it right. Let's get it right." And so I asked the other customer in the store if he could can you get a photo of me and this gentleman? And anyway, he was great. And yeah, after the customer, I'm like, "You know who that was?" And he didn't know either. So that's how,
You
yeah.
know, in 1984, I just moved to LA. I moved out there and I started working for Enigma Records. And I was at Club Lingerie
Yeah.
and the Del Fuegos were, I've told this when I had the Del Fuegos on the show, Warren and Dan. I told both of them.
Yeah.
I was with this girl I was seeing at the time, and another girl, and there's a guy standing against the wall, and he's dressed in white, and he's got a really low white hat on. I'm really good at recognizing people. If I was you that
Yeah.
day at Penny Lane, I would have like picked him out in a second because I'm really
Yeah.
good. That's one good thing. So I told them, and they didn't believe me, and they went over there. They never came back. So I had
Yeah.
to go over there, and then I got to meet David Lee Roth, but he wasn't very friendly to me, but he was very friendly to them.
Okay. Okay. Nice. Yeah. No, there's a great Henry Rollins story about meeting him at like 01 Gallery. Like, and Roth knew Black Flag and all that,
Yeah.
recognized Henry. Um,
And,
yeah. Yeah.
and,
Yeah. Go ahead.
and I got to tell you this, and years later, when I was working for Third Stone Music at the beginning of the 90s, Dick Rudolph, who ran the record labels, Michael Douglas's short-lived company, he had produced Tina Marie, and she came in. I'm just telling you this
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
met
No.
both
No.
of them. That's how small the music industry really
Yeah.
is, you know?
Yeah.
And I worked with the Goo Goo Dolls when they're on Metal Blade. How's that?
Okay, yeah.
So far we're in
And our
sync here.
and our A&R guy signed the Metal Blade label to Warner Brothers before he
Yes, I
signed us.
remember that.
Yeah.
I was there when that whole deal went down. You were probably working with this girl named Joe Leonardi in the marketing
Oh, I know
department.
Joe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's who I remember
Yeah.
meeting her and talking about our deal and everything. So, well, thanks for sharing that stuff. But I
Oh
want
yeah.
to.
No. Oh wait. Hey, let me tell you about the lawsuit real quick.
Okay. Oh yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah. So cut to in a I've talked. I wasn't supposed to talk. I had a gag order, but it's made a book now. I've talked about it. I don't know. It's probably fine. It's not that embarrassing for him. So what happened was this is years late. This is years later. This is like 9 years ago now actually. Uh so my as well as my email address. Um my handle on Instagram. On Instagram you got to have like a name, like Harry Bowles, and then has your name. So my name was David Lee Roth, one word, and then Ronnie Barnett, right? So I wasn't trying to impersonate him or anything. So one day at the Muffs account, I get an email from the lawyers representing the, and I'll quote now, famous singer, songwriter, author, and actor, unquote, David Lee Roth, basically saying you have this name, our client can't do business. What do you want for it, right? So my immediate reaction is like, look, I'll give my idol his name. That's fine. Maybe we meet up, we like sign paperwork, we take a photo together, start our respective new Instagrams. But the next day they came back and they were such pricks about it that I had to get a lawyer friend to help me out. And so we had this settlement, and then yeah, so I don't have a physical copy, which I just have a copy, but a signed agreement between me and David Lee Roth, and I signed it on normal. He signs like David Lee Roth.
That's
Um,
crazy.
but he inherited my followers. His Instagram. If you go all the way back to his initial things, people are like, "Where's Ronnie?" Blah, blah. I had to blank out my account. I had to delete every photo one by one. I couldn't blanketly do it, and I had to give him my password, which was Panama. Um, and and yeah, I got a little emotional about it, Steve. First time he posted, I'm like, this is my Instagram name. Anyway, so that's my
There's no way you could have made that up.
yeah. No, it's I
That
can
is
prove it.
great.
Yeah. So anyway, he didn't know
Oh,
a thing. And believe me, I'm sure he knows nothing about this. It was all business people and whatever.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
Um, I wanted to talk to you about because I know you're originally from Houston,
yeah.
and what was it like for you growing up there?
Um, it was I well, first off, I grew up a rich kid. I got that over with at a certain point. But so I was fine. What's interesting is like this tragedy in Texas with that girls' camp,
Yeah, it's
the people
horrible.
passing away. I used to go to camp nearby, and we had a night every term with that. I hadn't heard that name in 50 years, Camp Mystic. I'm like, we used to have a dance with them every term. Like it really hit close to home. That's just,
Oh,
Anyway, so yeah, it was fun. My first 5 years we kind of lived on a farm. We didn't farm, but we lived on all this acreage, had horses and stuff, had snakes appear in the house. Um, and then my parents split up right before third grade, and we moved to kind of the outskirts of the city. Um, yeah, it was cool, and I was the youngest of five boys, so I had the older brothers, right? So I had the older brothers record collection to point to, and my parents had cool friends. We used to go to New Orleans like 3 times a year, and I was given a stack of Cream magazines when I was 10, and that
nice.
that was my rock. I mean, I remember at age 10 saying I want to go see the Who and stuff. You know what I mean? Like I was rock aware at that point, and I saw Elvis, Steve, 3 times before I was 9.
Wow.
I saw Elvis at age 5, age 7, and age 9. Like now, again, I was young. I was taken there. I remember flashbulbs. I think it left an impression on like a big event to me, though. Like these people were excited. I could tell. Um, and again, just the cameras are going off the whole time. So yeah, I had really, my parents did split up, but they were very, my dad bought me a lot of records and stuff, and at age
Do you remember some of the early records that you had when you were a kid?
yeah, the first 7-inch I bought was Radar Love. So that would be 74.
Golden Earring.
And then here's a story. I told this before, but in 72, I got some money, and they told my brother, take him to get him some records. I wanted some Partridge Family. I wanted more Partridge Family records. And he's like, no, we get there. He's like, no, you need to buy these. And it was Frank Zappa's Apostrophe and Cheech and Chong's Big Bamboo. So those are those are kind of my first. That's the same era where I'm looking at the Black Sabbath Paranoid album in his collection. And I'm horrified. He's going to see Alice Cooper. I heard those stories. I'm scared to death. And yeah. So those are my early records. And then and then I kind of went through. My dad had quadrophenia for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
That just your parents would have just this odd record that didn't really fit. So that was an early one. And then I just started. I mean, the first full length album I borrowed money from my Uncle Mac. This is 75, age 10. I bought Dressed to Kill by Kiss. And then a year later, that's the first show I got to go to that I wanted to go to. Like before that, I got taken to see John Denver. I really did have a lucky upbringing in that respect.
Sounds interesting, man.
Yeah. So
what about the bass? Was that the first thing that you decided you wanted to play, or did you start with guitar like a lot of people do?
No,
or?
That's a great question, Steve. Because kids don't ask for basses, right? They don't.
Right.
They play the drums or guitar, right? So what happened was, so this would be. I started hanging around the local record store, and then something again that I still do to this day. Started hanging around local record store. I became friends with the manager, and I would sweep up. He hated anything punk, right? So this is like 79 now. I'm like 14. He hated anything punk, right? I'm like, because I'd read about these bands, like, what do you think of the Ramones? He's like, oh, and I'd buy Ramones, and you know what I mean? Like, it's so I'd get the Clash promos and stuff. I'd sweep around. We did inventory. Remember back then, Steve, record stores were head shops as well?
Oh, yeah.
Maybe some store. I remember inventorying counting screens. Pipe screens. Can you imagine?
I was actually trying to remember names of stores in Houston. I don't Sound Waves, Cactus. I mean, I used to talk to a lot of record stores, but I can't.
Yeah,
it's been so long ago.
Well, this is a store. There are only two of them. It's called Southwest Records, and but back then, Sound Warehouse was
Sound Warehouse, right?
That was our big tower-like store. Growing up in the '70s, and this one became. This one I fell in love with record stores. There's a chain called Evolution Records,
right?
And that was the head shop. There were promo stuff everywhere. It smelled like incense. I fell in love with that atmosphere, But yeah, as far as the bass, so I'm hanging out with the manager of the store at Southwest, and he was a blues guy, right? So he loves ZZ Top, and this is a big thing, like in Texas at that point. And it sounds weird now to people, but the blues scene there was incredible. Like. The Fabulous Thunderbirds back then were still one of the best bands I've ever seen in my life, right? And they were friends with the store. So I got to see these early Thunderbirds gigs and stuff. I mean, cut to when I started seeing Stevie Ray Vaughan, and I was like, this guy just plays scales fast. Like he's not like his brother. And now I love Stevie Ray, of course. But
you like Jimmy better than Stevie Ray?
At that point, I'm like, you know what I mean? I was like, I'm just hearing anyway. I'm lucky to have seen those shows, and of course, I love Stevie Ray now, like crazy. But yeah, in the Thunderbirds, actually, I went to the owner of this record store's the chain, if you will, the owner of both shops. The first band I saw do coke was the Thunderbirds backstage because they played his wedding. I couldn't believe it. I was 15. Anyway, so this guy played bass, and he liked blues, and I asked my parents for a bass. Actually, this would be 78 because I got the bass in 78. And that bass that my father gave me, it's still here. It's a bass I played my whole career.
Wow.
Like I had other ones, additional ones, but it was my main bass. I never found one that sounded better. It's like a mid-70s Fender Precision bass, heavy as fuck. Like I've ruined my back playing that thing, but I never found a better sounding. And that goes as far as recording, playing live, whatever. I'm not. Again, we talked about not being technical. I don't know if that made the initial beginning of this podcast, but like to the end of my playing career, I just plugged straight into the amp. Like I would unplug the tune. Like, so that's how I'm like, is it low and loud? That's my style. So anyway, that guy taught me some blues scales and some regular scales. I got lessons. The teacher tried to get them to get me a guitar, and then what happened was, after my freshman year in high school, at that record store, that store did a lot for me. I met this history teacher at my school, Now he was known for being the punk teacher, right?
Yeah.
This is 1980, 81. Actually be 1980. And he met and he learned I had a bass. He's like, "You want to come play with me and my brother?" And so those guys taught me to play. I ended up in that band with those guys. And the teacher's name was Greg Byers, and his brother Wayne, who played guitar, he taught me. He's like, first song I learned was a jam song. It's too bad. Now I didn't learn the fancy part, but I learned just the root notes, and yeah. So that's what taught me. I ended up in that band. Then I ended up in another high school band, and we did a lot of Police covers and stuff. I learned later Steve Sting, huge impression, huge influence on my playing. I never thought about it, but just in the pocket, you don't if you don't. My bass, I think if you don't notice the bass, you're doing a good job. So I'm not one of those rubber bandy guys, like,
You're just
anyway,
holding down the low end.
hold it down, and
Yeah.
you play as low as possible at any given time. You throw some stuff in sometimes, but yeah. Anyway, so that's how I ended up with the bass. But you're right. Yeah, kids don't. It's amazing.
Did you play in a lot of bands down there before you went to LA?
No. So I played in those bands, and then I put it down, and I started writing. I was just like, I wasn't one of those guys that was going to scour ads and jam with people, right? I always thought, like, if I end up another band, if I get a good opportunity, I'll do it. So what happens, I became a writer. I wondered, I was reading the weekly Houston paper called Public News, and just like so many people that probably get into writing, I'm just getting mad thinking I can do better. And why am I not seeing this covered? And I wandered into the office. It's one of those stories, that couldn't happen today. I wandered in the office and said, "Hey, I'd like to write for you." And I was 20, something like that, 21. Yeah. And they right then to go, "Here, grab some records." And they had these new SST releases. And I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll take this Dinosaur, You're Living All Over Me." And I wrote reviews, and it just started snowballing from there. And so I was like, this is great. I get to, and I was, again, the Cream magazine thing. I kind of became that guy who I'd pan local bands. So
you
I
were
was
the
hated.
Lester Bangs.
I was a Lester Bangs. I was
Yes.
hated by people, loved and hated. Like
I can't imagine you being hated by
I know,
anyone.
right? There's a poll where, like, the worst critics poll. The first two are like the two big guys in town, the Houston Chronicle and the Houston Post guy, and I'm third. I'm very proud of that.
What an honor.
But yeah, so I get in shows for free. I get to talk to Sonic Youth. This is great. So I thought I would do that. And then I moved to LA. I dropped everything and moved to LA because I had met Kim. I'd met Kim in '86. And we just stayed friends. I had a brother that lived in Costa Mesa. So when we met in '86. She's on tour with the Pandoras, the Stop Pretending tour. They're opening for the Bee Farmers. And I met her, and we just kind of hit it off as friends. And I went to Austin the next night too. So we hung out 2 nights. It wasn't romantic. And then I went out a month later, stayed with my brother for like a month. Met up with Kim again. We became friends. She had a boyfriend at the time. Again, not romantic, but we were friends. We stayed friends. Not to sound like every documentary, but to be friends then, you had to write letters and call. And we did. And I didn't see her again until '89 when the Metal Pandoras came through. This would be the Restless EP, Steve. I don't know if you're still there.
Yeah, I had just left around that time, but the first Pandora's record, Kim's on it, is like, I have an autographed copy of that.
Yeah, Stop Pretending. Yeah.
Yeah, I was in love with Paula Pierce when I first got to LA. I was like, I love her. She just had so much energy,
Oh yeah.
Melanie was on this podcast about a year ago, and we talked about this because I remember when her and Kim were both in the Pandoras together, and they were like the coolest band. When Steve Pross signed them, and they went to I think it was Elektra or MCA. Yeah. It was a disaster. It really was. I mean, they went completely in, like you said, the metal version. That was a big mistake.
Not first though. The Elektra record is kind of poppy still. The metal thing came after they got dropped.
Yeah.
And Paula was still with Steve.
Steve. You knew Steve Pross?
I met him when I moved out here, but he didn't really. I was just some guy who moved Kim's new boyfriend that moved from Houston. You know what I mean? but that's when they were the metal. That's when they were the full on metal. And so yeah, Steve had signed Vain to Island,
Yeah.
VAIN.
Yeah,
So
that
I
was
remember,
after Enigma. He
yeah,
left Enigma and went to a series of different labels after that. And I know that he was with Paula when they signed that deal.
yeah.
Uh,
In
I-
fact, maybe I didn't meet Steve. I think she was with this guy Randy who worked at Enigma. I think Randy signed XYZ.
okay,
He's
that
not.
was after I was there.
Yeah, it would be after you were there.
Yeah.
Because that was Paula's boyfriend until she died. Like he was the one that was with her when she died and stuff. He's passed away now too. Um, but yeah, yeah.
So
So anyway, yeah. So anyway, yeah. I came out again after meeting up again for another month and just decided I'm going to move out here. So well, when I say here, I'm in Sacramento now. We can talk about that later. Yeah. And I dropped everything. I dropped my writing career. I dropped my record store career, if you will. And I moved to Southern California, and little knowing that how my life was going to change like it did. I didn't move out to play in a band, you know. In fact, when Kim quit, um, you
a
know,
Pandora's, you mean?
yeah.
Yeah.
Now Kim hated. Like, Kim was not into that direction, but she did dress the part. You know, she did play that stuff. She did wear the bustiers and stuff, and but I witnessed the total demise of that band. The time, I mean, because at that point they'd alienated the old fans. They weren't picking up these metal fans. You know what I mean? And they'd be
I know exactly what you mean because I
yeah.
felt the same way. I was disappointed actually. The
So they'd
garage
be
rock queens, you know?
yeah, no, they'd be playing like and they still played a lot, but they'd be playing like last at the Coconut Teaser when everybody's left, or they'd be first at like the Metal Exposure 54, the metal club with these other metal bands. And you know, I witnessed CC DeVille talking shit about him at one of these shows. Like, um, you know, he's like, you guys were big when I first was coming, you know, that kind of thing. Like, so it was, you know, that said, I'm resistant to change. And when Kim, you know, Melanie was kind of let go, and then a month later, when this European tour fell out, Kim's like, I quit, and I was just like, you can't. What do you mean you can't quit? You know, and I knew that Kim had songs at that point. She had played me her songs. I'd even played on some demos. You know, at that point, and she's like, no, I want to play guitar. We'll have our own band, and
Yeah.
that's really how organically it started. So,
Did she ask you to play with her right away?
oh yeah. So we were a couple at that point. So, uh, yeah. So some of the I don't want to talk too much shit. Some of the other members that try to rewrite history a little bit and claim they were the only founding member with her. But there's an interview with Kim where she's like, I played my stuff for Ronnie first, and I played bass. We went and tried out a drummer, this guy named Murdoch. I don't know any other. I don't know his first name or if that was his first name. Anyway, so Kim was kind of wanted to do this, you know. But yeah, that said, that's why we hit the ground running, so to speak. So you know, Melanie and her husband Larry, Larry, he does In the Red Records. Um, they were our best friends. They live in Fullerton. Me and Kim lived in Orange at the time, and so that's how we were, you know, able to. We had songs to learn, and we found our drummer Chris pretty quick. We actually asked Roy to join. Um, I didn't know Roy. The girls did, of course. I, I, and Roy at the time he had just had a kid. He was about to move to Texas, right? He was drumming in the Fuzz Tones at that point.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
They never played out. He actually quit because they wanted him to dye his hair. And he's like,
Um,
"Nah, I'm good." Yeah, he was. You know, you got to wear turtlenecks and dye your hair. He's like, "Nah, I'm good." So, and anyway, as Roy says, the prospect of two ex Pandoras at that point, Pandora's had a bad rep at that point. Prospect of two ex Pandoras playing new instruments with one of their boyfriends playing bass. It wasn't like the most promising thing on paper in the world. So he introduced us to Chris. He was working for him at Warehouse Records. Um, yeah.
but
So
a lot happened very quickly for your band at
yeah,
that point. You know what I want to ask you is, do you remember the first gig that you guys played?
I do. So it was so we started rehearsing September or October of 1990. Played our first gig January 25th, 1991. See, I'm even give you the date.
That's
Um,
good.
and it was at the Shamrock. Remember the
Shamrock.
Shamrock? It was a
Yes.
it's now a strip club called Cheetahs. In fact, it's been Cheetahs for 30 years now. But
Yeah.
yeah, the Shamrock. You know, back then, again, I'm sounding like an old man. There were all these good places to play, Steve. You remember there was the Gaslight, there was Shamrock, there was Raji's, there was Club Lingerie, and then all the outlying areas, right? You could go play Orange County, you could play
A
Santa
country club
Barbara. Uh, we did a we did an early country club benefit with Nelson. We did that once.
with
Their house
Nelson?
bar, yeah, with Nelson, um,
Wow.
who were a little washed up at that by that point. Um, but yeah, so it was at the Shamrock, and our first three gigs were with these psychobilly bands because Chris Crass was friends with these guys. So there's a band called Terror Train at the time, and the stand-up bass player is named Slash, believe that or not. And I'm like, dude, there's another. And he'd be like, I had the name before him. I'm like, so?
No,
There's
no,
a,
I know you
yeah,
guys had singles come out on Sympathy and Sub Pop early, but
yeah.
someone was telling me that you guys had already had the deal with Warner's before, and then they wanted you to release those singles. Is that true?
The Sub Pop one, yeah. So we
Yeah,
recorded our we had
because
the Sympathy single and one on A Go Go in
yeah.
Australia. That's our first two singles. We recorded them at the same time with Bill Bartell producing.
Oh, I'm going to
Um,
talk to you about Bill.
yeah. No, we got to get into that. So we recorded those two singles at the same time. Now by the time they came out, we were talking to Warner Brothers. Um, we didn't have anything on tape, right? Besides those singles. Um, and those aren't necessarily the most professionally recorded things, right? No, no offense, Bill.
I wish
You know,
I had those singles though. I can't find
we
them
rec-
anywhere.
I I'll find them for you,
Oh,
Steve.
good. I'll talk to you about that
Yeah, yeah,
later.
yeah. Yeah, we had those, but yeah, we were talking. So we played that gig in late January. We're talking to Warner Brothers by like August. Like, it's one of those things. Like we just started playing these gigs. We the first few gigs were friend kind of giving us gigs, and you know, it just led to the clubs like this. So they just book us, and we're doing the opening on a Tuesday, and then we're in the middle on a Thursday, and then we're headlining by the summer. You know, yeah, Dave, the guy who initially found us, we had two A&R guys. So Dave Katz Nelson saw us at the Coconut Teaser on a bill with. He was there to see Trash Can School, but he walked out wanting to sign us. So he, yeah, and so by that, and he brought Rob Cavallo in, so we had kind of had two A&R guys, which kind of worked for
Yeah.
initially. They produced our first record, but when we got the offer to do the Sub Pop single, we were signed, but they knew it was a good thing to do. I mean, having a Sub Pop again, being a fan, I was just every step of the way. I'm like, wow, we have a Sympathy record. Whoa, this a Sub Pop at that point. I love all those bands.
It's really funny because a lot of people might not remember this, but I do because I was in the industry. But
Yeah,
a lot of bands would get signed, and then the label will be like, well, you guys should put out this independent EP or single first to build up a base at mom and pop retail so we
yep,
can get you. And I did that with so many bands back then. I remember that. So I remember, so
yeah.
you guys, I
Even
wanted
like
to,
Guns N' Roses, that first
yeah.
EP, that was like major. They used an indie label name, but yeah. Anyway,
Yeah, Mother
yeah,
Love Bone was the one that when I was at Metal Blade, we did the Mother Love Bone EP because Goldie, their A&R guy, was like, we got to get something out before. And then Paul, when I at A&M, we did it with them. I mean, I remember doing that with a lot of bands back then. It was a big thing. Um, it's really interesting. You guys worked with Rob Cavallo before Green Day and the Goo Goo Dolls and all those other bands. Were you one of the first bands that Rob produced?
well, Goo Goo um, yeah, well, we were the first. Our first record is the first record he produced. He
That's
he
what I
produced
thought.
he
Yeah.
produced demos like so. Okay, so before us, and look, we get credit in all the Green Day books for this. They signed to with him because they liked our record. Um,
I believe it.
yeah, well, they're like, look, this label put out a record like this, got an Angry Samoans cover on it, and
Oh, yeah,
and
that's
Rob's and
right.
Rob's a very cool guy, right? But yeah, before us, Rob was a metal guy. So besides Metal Blade, he signed the Black Sabbath with Dio. Was just back at that point with Dehumanizer. He signed a band called the Power Trio from Hell. The band before us he signed was called Sister Whiskey. I mean, this is the pre-Nirvana or
Yeah.
right there, right there, Nirvana kind of thing. Yeah. So Rob, yeah, we hit it off as people. He, the thing about the Muffs, I mean, we appealed to people, they could tell there was songwriting there. You know what I mean? Like for better or worse, we never fit nicely into any certain era. Though we could play garage festivals, we could play power pop festivals, we could play punk festivals, but we weren't fully embraced by any of the. It's hard to explain, but you know what I mean.
And you had
Um,
this Big Mouth and Lucky Guy. Those songs on the first record were really catchy. That's the one thing about the Muffs that I bought those first two records when they came out, and I was just like, wow. I mean, this band's really good. Well, I mean, I knew
yeah,
Melanie and
yeah,
Kim from before, but I was like, this is a new band, but they're really, really cool. Um,
yeah.
what was I'm going to move a little
No, no,
fast through
I
this.
know. Please.
What was the transition and like when Melanie left and you went from a four-piece to a three-piece? Was that hard for you guys or was it easy?
Yeah. Well, it was hard personally. Uh, Again, I was not into change. I thought it could be worked out, but it didn't. It didn't work out. So we when she left, um, we were going in to make our second record, Blonder and Blonder,
Yeah.
like a week later. Like it was that quick.
Wow.
Things just really kind of went to shit. You know. So we knew we were going to make a record as a three piece, but we thought we'd add a fourth because all we knew was being a four piece. So we thought we would get a fourth member. And what happened was while we were making the record, Green Day had blown up at that point. Um, by the way, Green Day, besides taking our A&R guy and producer, they took our business manager, our regular manager, our booking agent, all the same crew, all that. And whatever. That record got big. They're great guys. But after that, all those business people thought they invented punk rock all of a sudden. These metal guys, our managers managed Testament before us. You know what I mean? They got like a label deal. See, we could talk label stuff, Steve. We should do another one. I just want to talk label.
Oh,
Anyway,
I worked at enough of those.
no, I love it. I'd love to interview you, to be honest. I love executives. That's my thing. Um, um, so what happened was Green Day blew up and we got an offer to open for them at the Palladium. And we're like, we got to do this. We want to do it as a three piece. It's really like that. Nothing at that point. I don't know if it's that way for everybody when you're young and whatever, but like nothing is that thought out really. Our band was never, I know a lot of major label stuff is over thought out. It never was with us. Like I said, there's an Anger Simone's cover on our first record. Like it wasn't, nobody came in and slashed and burned and said, you got to do this or that. And all those horror stories. So what happened was we were like, okay, we got to do this gig. And we did a gig the night before under a different name, not because we were a big band, but just because we didn't want any pressure of people. And we played at a place called Hell's Gate, which you may or may not remember. Selma, you were probably gone by then. It was at Selma and Tawanga, which was
Does sound familiar. I don't.
It was a small place around for a while, and that intersection was called like the most dangerous intersection in the country at that point. And maybe it was at that point. So anyway, we played, and then we played this big gig at the Palladium, and we're immediately like, wow, this is kind of cool. Like it's kind of cool when there's solos and there's no guitar. It's kind of more rocking, and without we were such a our initial lineup was such a loud. We were often just way too loud for wherever we were playing. Like when you see people just standing there, like still, that they're just
their faces are moving.
Like those early gigs. I mean, you hear their story, where Kim's hitting me with guitars and stuff. I mean, I'd feel really messy after a lot of those gigs. Like I'd have to shower. Like it'd be like, we just went to battle. Like anyway, so the band really had to progress like that. And looking back, Kim really had a hard time finishing the first record. It was too many opinions. It was too many people saying, I can't hear this or that. Because we had a voting situation at that point. And we had two producers. So it was a lot of opinions. So at that point I can look back. I mean, I can look back now and say that it had to happen because Kim was not going to work that way anymore. And there it was. And we'd found Roy Roy had come back to us by that point. And, so that was our lineup for the rest of our career, for 25 years.
What was it like making Blonder and Blonder as a three-piece? Was it really easier for you?
It was. So first off, we had all those great songs, right? And I'm not real involved in production. Again, the technical thing. I would sit there and I'd go to the studio to eat, right? Like I'd watch TV and eat red vines and eat these catered meals. But Kim was really into, all that stuff. And look, we spent however much money we had to spend, we spent it. So it's crazy to think we spent 150 grand making that record, but we did. But it's all, and people are like, why? You're a rock band with no, but it's just like you've been along for recording records, Steve. You know how it is. You're like,
Oh yeah.
oh, let's rent this guitar. Oh, that sounds good. Why don't we try that on this song we've already recorded? All that kind of thing. And so, and at a certain point you run out of money and the record is what it is.
Yeah.
The first record we turned down a Bob Ludwig mastering and we ran out of money and we had to use the in-house guy, Lee Hirschberg, who's a legend. But at that point, he was a little long in the tooth and he was the in-house guy. And that record is not mastered that great. Anyway, but it was Blonder and Blonder that was a great, and we met, Rob had worked with this engineer, Jerry Finn, by that point on the Green Day record. So Jerry engineered it and Jerry went on to have a great career. He produced Morrissey and Blink 182. He's not with us anymore either, but that team really, it was great. That Blonder and Blonder was a really, probably my fondest recording memory.
What do you remember about going on tour for that record?
So the tour for that. So we fell when we're in our major label years, we fell into this, like, starting with that Goo Goo Dolls thing. Fell in this thing like we'd open for the big band, then we'd go to Europe, then we'd do a headlining tour on our own. So that year it was great. So we ended up on tour right when the record came out with Veruca Salt, and
I remember that tour.
Immediately bonded as people and as bands, and it was us. It was Veruca Salt, us, and this band called Fig Dish, who had just put out a record.
They were on A&M. I totally remember that tour. I remember that
and Nina
tour.
was dating Blake from Fig Dish. So
yeah,
we all became, you hear this, but we all became family. And it was great for us because Veruca Salt was blown up at that point. So we're doing theaters. You know it is, Steve. That middle slot is the sweetest because everyone's there, and then you get to hang out after. And then when you have a band that you love, like Veruca Salt, to watch, it just makes it so great. Because usually, when you headline, especially when you headline clubs, and like you finish, and then it's like, get the fuck out of here. People kick you out of the club. Like, hey, I want to, now's when I want to have a beer. Like, anyway. So that was sweet. And then we did a tour, a headlining tour with it was us, the Queers, and Cub. And I ended up, my first wife was Lisa from Cub. So we met on that tour, and that was a great tour too. All the tours that we were on were always, it was a tour of everyone's kind of lives. Like,
it's cool that you went from like Veruca Salt to like the Queers. I mean, you didn't sell out.
Yeah, no. Looking back, I mean, again, it's amazing we were able to do and make the decisions that we did. And that was Blonder. We switched to Reprise from Warner Brothers.
Yeah, so why did that happen?
So the Green Day people that work their record could work our record. You know how it works, Steve. So the radio guy. So we could work with Steve Tipp at radio.
Oh, wow.
And try to get us on the radio, which didn't really happen. But we did do, and we did a $60,000 video for Sad Tomorrow with the guy did the Green Day videos, and it got played like on 120 minutes. It's whatever. It's
plus
still
college radio loved you guys, so you had that base.
Yeah.
Base was there.
But yeah, no, bringing a band like the Queers that we had to follow. I mean, we had to up our game too. So we really did become a really good band as a three-piece.
Oh yeah, I know. Believe me, I know. Okay, this is weird because it has happened to other bands too. Sometimes you have a cover song and it ends up becoming the biggest thing. And that happened to you guys. Kids in America was in the movie Clueless.
Yes.
I mean, and that movie was like the biggest movie on the planet at the time. What was that experience like?
Yeah, so Clueless, directed by Amy Heckerling, who directed Fast. I always wanted to work with her, Steve, since I saw Fast Times as a kid.
Yeah.
No, anyway, we're on tour and we get this offer to do this, manager's like, this looks to be a good good thing. And Amy's daughter was a fan, so she reached out to us and gave us the choice of two songs: "Kids in America" or "All by Myself" by Eric Carmen.
Oh,
Um,
I think you picked the right one.
no, we obviously, I love "All by Myself," but the Muffs weren't going to do a great version of that, right? And Jewel ended up doing it, a pre-stardom Jewel, and it didn't even make the record. I just saw the movie again last week because it's a
Tough
30th
song to
anniversary.
cover, man.
Yeah, yeah.
All
So it became the theme of the movie, right? It's the first song. It's the first song on the record. It opens the movie. So I mean, it's amazing. It's played in sports stadiums. I mean, it's a thing I can point to that everyone has heard. I think kids are coming up now that don't necessarily know Clueless, but
See, I didn't know that you had a choice. I thought maybe you guys had recorded that song and then someone came along and heard it and said, we're going to use it in the film.
yeah,
So they asked you to record
they
the song.
asked us. So we had to do it on the road. So we I think we postponed one of the New York area dates. We recorded it at Electric Lady. Um, Rob flew out. We did it. The Degeneration guys are singing backup. They're part of the crew doing the whoa-ohs and stuff. And it was fun. It was
It
quick and
sounds
easy.
amazing.
Yeah,
I
no,
just
it's.
heard it recently, man, and I was like, holy shit.
I
I
know. Dare
like,
I say? And I'm not like a cover guy. Dare I say we have the definitive. And Kim Wilde. I mean, we bought her a house. Too bad we didn't write it.
did you ever get to meet Kim?
No. So I got a good story, Steve. I don't mean to go long.
Oh,
Tell me if I'm
you're fine, man. You're fine.
okay. So I'm the band that always wanted the gold record, right? The album went gold. So first off, let me start by saying that should have been a single, but record company shit, soundtracks on Capitol, we're on Reprise. They
Yeah.
can't. They're not gonna. Neither label's gonna push the. Reprise needed to be supportive, is what needed to happen, so Capitol could push it, and it would have benefited everybody. You know how this goes.
Yes.
Um, so it was never a real single, which is a real shame. Um, but okay, so I always wanted the gold record. I always tried to get a manager to get us a gold record, and he'd always give me some bullshit. And the band knew I wanted it. They were even like, "Look, if we get one, you can have it, Ronnie." But so cut to, I guess this would be, yeah, it'd be 20th anniversary. So 10 years ago now. Um, we got a call, 20th anniversary, Clueless coming out on vinyl. Will you do press? And I took the lead here. I'm like, yes, I write the publicist. I'm like, I got a great idea. Kim Wilde, who we've never met, presents us with our gold record. This is Billboard magazine type shit. This would be great. Um, she writes me back. She's like, well, she lives in England. I don't know if it can happen. And by the way, it's platinum now. So, okay.
Wow.
So a month goes by, and then we get offered to do it. I should say, Steve, we never played this song live. We tried to kind of do it at practice, and we'd always, dare I say, it's really kind of dumb compared to the Muffs material. Like Muffs songs are surprise or they're kind of hidden. They're kind of a little complex. They might sound a little simple, but there's things going on in them. And we'd always get to the chorus, "Kids in America." We just couldn't make it through, so we never played it live. So we get this offer to do it on TV for this VH1 morning show called Morning Something, hosted by Nick Lachey from 98 Degrees. Who's married to Jessica Simpson, had that show.
Yeah, yeah, I remember that.
So we agree to do it. It's a TV thing. So I'm like, okay, I guess we're going to learn this song. I write the publicist. I go, I got a great idea. You know where this is going. We're presented with our platinum record on TV, blah, blah, blah. No response. So anyway, we do the show. We play it. It's fine. It's sadly not on YouTube, and it's lost because I lost it in like a DVD
It's not on
DVR.
YouTube?
It's not on YouTube, and the
Oh,
and the show the show was canceled about a month later. But anyway, we play it outside this swanky hotel in LA, and then we get interviewed, right? And we're getting interviewed. I see the box, Steve. I see the form of the box. I know what it is, and we got presented with our platinum records by Nick Lachey on TV.
Nick Lachey.
So I finally got it, but yeah, no, it's great to have that in our career, and yeah, I mean, it's not embarrassing or anything.
You
So
shouldn't be. It's a really great version that you do. It's like one of the
thank you.
best covers ever. I've heard people talk about great covers, and that song always gets in the conversation.
Yeah,
Okay, I know there's a bunch more records that came out, and I wish I could go over
yeah,
every single one of them with you, but I just love how the band did Soldier On. Did you do anything else during some of those lull periods with other bands? Were you in any other? Okay, I know I was going to ask about Bill Bartell because
oh yeah,
I saw somewhere where you get credit for being in White Flag. When was that? Because I remember White
yeah,
Flag, but
yeah.
they had a lot of different members and stuff.
Oh yes, there's a there's a 10-year anniversary White Flag photo because the comp came out and it's got all the members past and present. And again, this is 30 years old now, but it's at that point it's like a ton of people. Yeah, me, Bill. Okay, you knowing Bill a little bit, you know how Bill was. If you even remotely agreed to something with Bill, you were doing it. He had plans for you to do it. You know, he tried to get you to put it together. Like Bill, you know what I mean? Bill's quite amazing, and I miss him a lot. And and there's a movie now we should say that I don't know how people can see it, but they will one day called um the Secret Lives of Bill Bartell. But anyway, yeah. So initial Muffs. I mean, Bill wrote me and Kim, and me and Kim both were in White Flag for a bit, and he got us to go to uh somewhere outside of town by where he lived, Fontana. We went to a studio in
What?
Fontana. Yeah, Fontana,
I've been
Steve.
there.
Yeah. Home of Sammy Hagar. We went there once, and Bill had us record like bits of like I don't know 8 songs, a lot of songs, which Bill proceeded to ladle out on 8 different releases over the next couple of years. So me
I,
and we did live gigs too. And Kim lasted a bit, but she dropped off. I stayed in for a little while longer.
I did do a Tater Tots record with, well, way
Oh
before
yeah,
Tater Tots, we did Gasatanka records
yes.
together, the FUs, and there was that Flip Side compilation, which was great. It had tons of great bands on it. Bill Bartell, I always liked him, always liked the guy, and I was really sad when I heard about his
How, did
passing.
did you broker that deal, Steve? I always wonder how Gasatanka
No,
ended up
I
with
did.
Enigma.
Wes Hine did, the owner of Enigma Records, but I worked on the records. That's how I met Bill. It was right before I got there. Oh, Dave Naz is who I was talking. I was trying to remember who
Yeah,
I was talking to about Bill Bartell. It was Dave Naz because he was
yes.
on my show really. And Anna Warnaker was on a while ago, and
Ah,
the McDonald's are all close.
I love both of them dearly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Anna's finally getting a lot of credit for what she's doing. I'm really
Oh,
happy about that.
she's doing great. It's perfect.
Okay,
Perfect for her. Yeah.
you know what I got to ask you? I was talking to Pete this morning from Muck and the Myers. Are you in a
Uh-huh.
Muck and the Myers video?
I am.
I
Yeah.
thought,
That one, I'm Your Man. It's
yeah,
got
that's an old Ape
many.
Hangers song.
Oh, okay.
I
It's a
used to
great
manage,
song.
I managed the Ape Hangers, and they're actually doing a reunion show in August here in Boston, and we're going to release some unreleased stuff. And Pete is in Muck and the Myers, the lead guitar player from the
Okay.
Ape
Yeah.
Hangers.
You know, we played with them a time or two back in the day. And yeah, I consider them friends. I'm going to go see them later this month. They're playing out here, the Rock and Roll Flea Market. By the way, talking about Blonder and Blonder, since you always bring this up on your show, Steve, we were the special guest at a WBCN Rumble in '95, which I felt bad about because I heard like, oh, past guests are like Iggy Pop, and so I'm like, wow, it's us, you know.
You know, I
But
was living in LA and I missed that, unfortunately, but I do
yeah,
remember you guys were on the rock and roll run. 90, I was of course the first thing I'm trying to do is think of who won, and I can't remember who won in 1995.
I I can't remember either. But I met Peter Wolf, and I was really he kind of blew me off. But I think I don't blame him.
Really?
Well,
He's not really, and
that's
he's
what I
pretty
mean.
friendly. He's
I
pretty
think
friendly.
well, I met him later when I was on tour with another band that I did put some time in that I'll talk about in a second. Uh, and we were opening for Nico Case, and he loves Nico. And I met him again, and he was very nice that time. What happened was I was getting introduced to him. Literally, as we were shaking hands, he turned his head. But I think somebody was talking to him. Again, I'm not mad at him. I'm not mad at him. I'm a huge fan. Best frontman in rock ever.
Really
I
good writer and storyteller too,
Oh,
man.
his book is great. Yeah.
I don't know if you heard when he was on Mark Maron recently. It was
I
one of the
did.
best podcasts ever. He was
Yeah.
telling his whole story, man. It was really
No.
fantastic.
So yeah, getting back to your question though, during the kind of we took a break after our '04 album. Really happy. Not for any reason. We just kind of I think we just been going for
That
over
was on
10. Yeah.
Sympathy, right? That one?
No, that was on 5 Foot 2. Anna
Oh
Warner
yeah,
and
that's right.
Charlotte
Anna.
Caffey's
Yeah.
label. Yeah, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Um, so after we toured for that record, I ended up I did a couple years of touring with this band Queen from Seattle.
Oh, I
There's
like that band.
they're Queen's great, and
I forgot
people,
you were in that band.
yeah.
Wow.
I took Kim
Yeah.
Warnick's place. Kim Warnick from the Fast Facts retired at age 40 back then, which seems so old, right? Kim Kim's 40.
She's back playing now, probably. She's
Yeah,
out of
not gigs. They made a record. She didn't want to do any gigs
Oh
anymore. Me
no,
and
she
Kim are
did.
we're still close, me and Kim. But yeah. So I played in the Seattle band, and we slayed. We were great. I never made any recordings with them, but we did do. I am in a video called Crush
Yeah,
on
I've heard
Radio.
some of their recordings. I mean, they're a
Yeah.
good band, really good band.
So I did that during those years. Kim was like trying to write for commercials and stuff, and you know we all still stayed friends. And then what happened was we just got we never really broke up. We just got offered to go to Spain in '09, and again we did it. And then we were back, until she passed away.
Yeah,
So
I was going to ask to wrap it up if you could talk about
yeah,
Kim a little bit and what she meant to you because you guys were a couple, but you played together. I remember hearing somewhere or reading somewhere that you made a pact, whether you broke up or not, you would
yeah,
continue onward, and you did.
we did. Like when the band was doing well by the time we broke up, and we were like, look, we gotta work this out. Like, and that said, I mean, there were some uncomfortable moments in the van, especially Kim at that point was still, drinking a bit, and could have her moments. She wasn't like a heavy drinker, but she'd have the night that where she would drink would be things could happen.
Yeah, I get that. I get
Where
that.
she's like trying to put my head in a urinal in Austria, that kind of stuff, or taking a swing at me. Yeah, that kind of stuff happened. I mean,
How tall was she, by the way? She was pretty tall.
yeah, I want to say she's like 6'1". Weird, because she
Yeah.
was just under me. Like we were, because Roy'd always be like, I'm not that short, but I look like Paul Simon in this
Six,
band.
okay, 6'1" is tall for a woman.
She might
Okay.
have been six. I mean, I don't. I see that she didn't seem that much under me, which is
Well, I
why I
mean, I
said I'm
remember
guessing.
seeing her on stage, and I know I'm only 5'8", so oh my
Yeah,
God, she's a lot taller than me.
no,
Sorry, but
no,
go ahead, go ahead.
no, no. We looked big. We looked tall.
Yeah.
And we were tall. And yeah, yeah, um, yeah. But Roy would complain. Roy would be like, I'm not that. Yeah. Anyway, um, yeah. No. So we worked it out, and yeah, because we, being a couple, we had that way to piss each other off, and
Was it
you
hard
know,
at all when you first broke up?
yeah, it wasn't hard in the fact. I mean, we were done as a couple, so there was none of that jealous. I wasn't jealous of her dating people and stuff. In fact, her next boyfriend was the engineer of our first record. So Brian Kehoe has
So it
done
was
a lot of great
right in
things.
front of you.
Yeah, right in front of me, but it wasn't a big. So there wasn't that. But like, I get frustrated waiting on her because she was late every morning on the road. And on the road things are.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You need things you got enough shit to deal with. You need things easy. I was getting up early, like, and I had to wait on her. I'd get mad. She'd get mad at me, and you know, but
Doesn't that happen in every band though?
yeah, yeah, no, and look, I got to recognize how special that our band relationship was. I got to appreciate it during I'll call that last chunk, Spain on, '09 on. I was really taking everything in at that point, like even the shitty bathrooms and just like I did, I'm like, how much longer can we do this? I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Like, um, and our shows were big love fests at that point. People that were coming to see us really loved the band. I say this a lot, but the people that like the Muffs tended to like us a lot, so
Yeah.
there was a lot of love, and we were pretty consistent at that point. Back in the day, some nights we were the best band in the world, and some nights we weren't. We did this high-powered act, and some nights it worked, some nights it didn't work as well.
I would say that would be the sloppy good night.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sloppy
Well,
good.
yeah. I mean, well, and this is why we weren't like the band. We were never like the band to go play every city because we just weren't. The towns where 50 people are going to show up, they weren't good for our psyche, right? So we tried to stick to major towns and stuff. But yeah, yeah. So we were able to appreciate it, tell each other we loved each other all the time. And that leads to when Kim got sick, right? Like she um For those who don't know what ALS is, I mean, it's Lou Gehrig's disease, and basically basically it's a terminal disease, and your body just shuts down while your mind is still 100% working. Um, so there's not like dementia involved. So that's almost the saddest thing about it, right? And thank goodness the technology was there for her when she was sick to have this tablet-like thing that she could construct sentences that would talk for her by reading her eyeball, right? Um, and so, what happened was, our last shows were in like South America for the first time. Like that shot on the cover of No Holiday, our final record, that's the end of Buenos Aires. Like it's 1,000 people.
Yeah.
When we play a show like that, I'd be like, that's Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band, bow, like from that album. And that's why we have that shot. Thank God we had a photographer where we're kind of raising our hands and pointing like Kiss. And thank God we have that shot. Um so we did those shows, and our last show was actually in Vancouver with the Smugglers. We came home, we are gonna take the summer off. She's gonna write songs. Kim wrote songs in gluts, right? So you mentioned Big Mouth and Lucky Guy. That was the second glut of songs for the Muffs. Like, so she was gonna write, and we had a bunch already, but she's gonna write more. We're gonna make the next record. And we're still in touch, but like in August, and you could hear this, me and her, I saw her again. I hadn't seen her for a month or two, but we still talk. But she picked me up and we went to do a podcast for Bruce Duff.
Oh yeah.
You probably know.
Yep.
And you hear she's talking about it there. At that point, she was not able to grip with her left hand. And we talk about this. It's eerie now because she's talking about it. She's like, it's fine. I'm going to doctors. I think it's carpal tunnel or something. I'm like, I'm very concerned. You hear me say this? And ALS ran in her family. She was always scared of it. Her father passed away from it, her aunt. And that's like August. And then she got diagnosed, by late October, early November. And first thing, as she's talking to me and Roy, and we're all crying, and first thing she says is like, we got to finish our record. And so she had demos at that point. She was slurry. She could still talk, but she couldn't sing anymore, and she couldn't play. So we kind of had to work around these demos. And this is the first time, because Kim in the past had constructed these demos. They were almost like completed songs. Like I'd be like, you don't need. She'd chop up Roy's drum parts. It sounded like Roy playing. They're pop songs, so we're not jamming. We're not jamming riffs. But this time some were acoustic, some were more fleshed out than others, and so we kind of had to approach this differently. And things are different qualities. We had a couple of songs left over from the previous record, Whoop-De-Doo, that we used. But Roy had to do these drums, and sometimes the timing wasn't right. We had to kind of adhere to it. It's kind of like that Syd Barrett record where they kind of had to adhere to his weird timing, the Madcap Laughs.
Yeah.
But Kim oversaw it, right? And I overdubbed bass, and our friend Karen from the Pandoras, Karen Bassett, Karen Blankfield and the Pandoras, she engineered, and Kim could communicate with this device in her house. So she oversaw this whole thing. She produced our final record. I was called a miracle record because it really is. And like, and look, Kim wasn't out about being sick, right? So this was gonna come out while she was still alive initially. And we were kind of like, again, the Steev, you need 3 months prep time, turning in a record to all, and by turning in, I mean everything.
Yeah.
To start working on promotion and everything. And so we're trying to decide how we're going to do that. Like, we're going to just say like, look, we got attached to these demos, how we make this record differently. And we're starting to get interview requests, and Kim could only do them email wise. And how that record would have been received, it probably would have been received very weirdly if people just thought it was an ex-Muffs record. But Kim died 3 weeks before it came out. So they were done. She was able to see it. I remember we were able to bring it over and show it to her and stuff. But yeah, so we always knew it was going to be, because the cover is that shot. It's us from the back. It's live. So people are like, "Is this a live record? What is this?" And we really couldn't give away too much. Always knowing it was going to be the tombstone to our career, not to be grim. But yeah, so it ended up being, and look, when Kim died, I mean, the coverage was amazing. The outpouring of love was beyond
I
anything
remember.
anybody could have
Yeah.
expected. Like Elvis Costello made a statement. The Who, we were on the screen at the Who concert at the Hollywood Bowl. When I eulogized her, I said, I don't know where all these motherfuckers were when they were taking us for granted. It got a good laugh, Steve. Um, when you do a eulogy, you want to talk about the good things, make people laugh a little
Absolutely.
bit, and get them right there. And so, gosh, she's on the new NBC News. You know what I mean? It was
Oh,
amazing for a band of our stature.
she's a
We had
rock
this
star.
we had this kind of mid-level career our whole career, right? We were able to work, we were able to travel, we were able to fly to the East Coast, till the end. Um, we played Maxwell's the last Thursday it was open. We had this, yeah. But anyway, I'm proud of it. So I'm proud of our band, and I'm
You
I'm glad.
should be, man. You guys really made your mark. I mean,
Yeah.
seriously,
Thanks for
really
saying
good.
that. Yeah.
Um, Thanks, man, for doing this. I'm sorry we're
No.
ending on kind of a somber note here. It's kind of like the end of the band.
Right.
But
Things continue. I think
yeah,
you can look for we're going to do a best of uh, on Omnivore. Omnivore has reissued most of our records,
yeah,
all of our records except the one we can't, or and not Whoop-De-Doo, and not the one we can't get the rights to. Um, the one on Fat Record, the one on Alert Today, Alive Tomorrow from '99. That one we can't. I think they're trying to sell the label. I think that's why it's kind of we can't get a response over there.
yeah.
Um,
Believe me, I know a lot of bands that have been trying to get certain records in the last
yeah,
5 years. It's been insane the amount of calls you get from people thinking that you're going to be able to make one call and get their record for them, and it's complicated as fuck.
no, that's why people. It drives me nuts when people just, and fans. God bless them. They don't know any better, but they're like, "Why don't you reissue this record or that record?" Or
Yeah, if your record didn't sell a huge amount, like I'll just for example, the Neighborhoods,
yeah,
they had a record on Restless Enigma, the High Hard one.
yes,
I'd love everybody, anyone would love to have that record, to hear it digitally or find it anywhere. You can't. And there's a
yeah,
long list of bands like it. Salem 66 was just on my show.
yeah,
They finally got their Homestead records from the 80s. Then they just
yes.
did a best of. That's what it's like.
I love Salem '66 so much. I got to say that. Thank you for having them on. But yeah, no, but I mean, it's weird business wise, right? Because there's that whole thing where some bands got their records back, even major label records, because there's some legal loophole or something.
I wish I had a law degree. I didn't know that
Yeah,
when I went to do work and do A&R and do all these jobs that you needed a law degree, but you really did. You,
yeah.
you do.
But something like the High Hard one that's just sitting there, that's blows my mind. You know what I mean? Yeah, or even the Emergo. Is that how you said the name, Steve?
Yeah, the Reptile Men record too. You're
Yeah,
a Neighborhoods fan. I like
yeah, I
that
am.
band.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, well,
So
I
I
have
was
a
I was confused though, Steve, when it said just hoods big. I'm not from Boston. By the way, Boston was always very good to us, but we couldn't get booked there the latter part of our career for whatever reason. We do these flight because Todd from Maxwell's would fly us out. He'd book us in Philly, he'd book us in Brooklyn, he'd book us in Maxwell's, he'd book us in New Haven, but we just couldn't get booked during
that
that.
doesn't make any sense at
I
all.
know it doesn't make sense at all because Boston was always a really great town for us.
It's the
So
venue. The venues probably wouldn't pay you guys enough money. That's probably what
yeah,
happened. It had to be something like that because you have the fans
no,
here, you
our
know.
shows are always great. In '95, I know we're wrapping up, Steve. Sorry. In '95, we played TT's with Tracy Bonham opening, who hadn't had a record yet. I remember calling our A&R guy the next day. You got to sign this. I didn't know she'd been signed already. I'm like, you got to sign Tracy
So you
Bonham.
play TT the Bears, huh?
Yeah, we
Yeah.
played our early gigs. Well, we did the Paradise with the Goo Goo Dolls, and then we were in Middle East always. But yeah, we did TT's twice. We did. In fact, the longest show we ever did was TT's in '04.
That's still
Longest
my
show
favorite.
ever.
Well, except for the Rat. Except for the Rat,
Yeah,
TT's is still my favorite boss. It didn't have the best sound system, but you know what? There was something about that room, man.
yeah,
It was,
and that show too. We're in the summer. That's with the queers and everything, and it was super hot, which is not unusual. But we found out later the heat was on. They had the heat on in the building.
Hey, Ronnie,
Jesus.
thanks a lot, man.
Thank you, Steve.
Hey,
This
hang
is
on, I'll
great.
talk to you for a sec. All right.
Okay.